Hello and welcome to today's episode of Platinum Talks Wealth. Emmy-nominated journalist Jennifer Rogers Markwell changed gears in her television career when she realized the need to help women make sense of investing. She regularly hosts educational workshops to empower women and others to take charge of their financial future. Now, join your host, Platinum Wealth Management President Jennifer Rogers Markwell, as she leads us into the world of money memories, money infidelities, and how these can mold our relationship with our personal finances as adults. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, and thanks so much for spending some time with us. You're joining us on the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast. I'm Jennifer Rogers Markwell, and today I'm joined by Christian Feraria, who is going to tell us all about himself and why he does what he does.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. I'm Christian Feraria. I'm a publicist, author, public speaker, and YouTuber. I wrote my book, The Mediocre Student's Guide to Graduating College, to help people with the college family expectation of going to college, graduate. These individuals may or may not be unmotivated or struggling students, and I just want to give them practical advice to help them get through college successfully.
Did this book come from your personal journey?
Yeah, so in a way, yes, because I myself, I had like two very successful sisters, and I always felt mediocre in comparison to them. I couldn't necessarily live up to their expectations. So in that regard, I did feel very mediocre. So I wrote the book to kind of help myself and other people who may lack confidence in themselves at time and who may struggle at times.
Give me a little bit deeper of a version of your book if I can. So if I'm a college student and I'm like, oh, hey, like I'm doing the best I can, but I'm struggling.
Well, it'll give you practical advice, and it'll give you advice from somebody that recently graduated college, not somebody that graduated 20 years ago. It gives you advice in regard to picking your professors, debt, parties, just everything that you need to know. I think of it as a little cheat sheet for college.
Now, you didn't have that going into college, so you really are helping people kind of navigate what you had to go through yourself.
Absolutely.
So tell me more about like why, again, I know that your situation, but why did you feel that was important for others who are kind of trying to navigate that themselves?
Absolutely. So I always heard about there were a lot of people dropping out of college. And in my opinion, going in, I thought it was all academic related. But then when I got there, I realized that people dropped out for a handful of reasons. There were people doing nonstop drugs. Some people couldn't control their partying. There was just a handful of reasons. And once I got there, I realized that this isn't just an academic thing. If people can just go to college and handle their business, do what they have to do. And I think everybody should, especially like when you're 17, 18, I think you're very vulnerable because a lot of people are taking out these massive loans that they don't need. And it's kind of funny to me because when you turn 22, when you're done at college, you pay the debt back. So I think people need to understand that when they're taking out these loans, this is real money that they will have to pay back. Everybody should utilize scholarships, potentially think about going to a community college so you can pay everything off a lot easier. And I mean, and then once you're in college too, like maybe potentially getting a job so that you can just have a steady stream of income. But I just think finances is something that should be taken seriously. And I think it's hard for a 17, 18-year-old who maybe hasn't even had a job yet to think about that like $100,000 or $50,000 loan that they're about to take out.
That's a big adult dollar amount, right?
Yeah, huge.
So did you work during school too? Tell me about that.
So I worked a little bit. I was a tennis coach on the side, and it was just like extra pocket money for me. And yeah.
I think trying to balance out everything, and granted, I'm older than you are, but like trying to balancing everything out in college was the challenge, right? It was part of the journey of trying to figure out like how am I going to do all of the things and still be healthy and move forward and graduate and be successful to whatever that looks like definably.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot going on in college. I think everybody's situation is different financially and academically, and we all have to manage our goals, expectations, and everything else that we have going on.
How did you evolve to the person that you are now outside of college?
I'll say this. My school, they had this saying. They said, enter to learn, leave to serve. And just really felt it was just perfect for the 17, 18-year-old version from myself. Like I was an okay student. But I just felt like if everybody that was unconfident in themselves, they would all graduate because I think personally the differences between high school and college are massive. You can pick your professors. You have unlimited freedom. You get to pick your major. So ultimately, you get to pick what you're studying, which is huge.
Well, in this podcast, we talk about money memories. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind sharing, what was your first money memory that you feel probably molded your relationship to money as an adult?
My first money memory as an adult. I'm only 23 as we're speaking, but I will say my first money memory would probably be I'm on the more frugal end of people, but I would say once I got into college, I I think I did like an impromptu purchase of like a TV, and it was an Xbox, and it cost me like $360, and I really wanted it like for my dorm room to play, and I don't think it was the smartest purchase at the time. And I think college was the first time since I was on a stricter budget with myself, I really had to manage. That was the first time I think I had to manage my money, and that was the first real big purchase that I made.
So many times some folks will think back to like childhood. Like went to the penny store and I had 1 penny and whatever that looked like. Or, you know what I mean, to buy candy or, parents kind of navigating through money for them. Is there
Yeah.
anything that resonates with you that you're like, oh yeah, when I was
Oh, yeah, no, childhood
a
100%.
money
Just
memory from childhood, right? That kind of helped mold you who you are now.
oh, yeah, 100%. No, that's actually a lot easier for me because I remember this way back. It was when it was still a video game purchase, but it was a Wii, and my parents weren't going to buy it. They thought it was just a little lavish purchase for somebody, and my parents, I mean, they were generous, but they didn't always just give me everything, and I was one of those people, I would actually save my family's water bottles and cans, and I would have to go to the place and save it, and each time I'd go, I only get 20 bucks, and the Wii was, like, way more than that. So, I mean, I literally had to work for this thing. I had to go back and forth, do all these odd jobs, and this was only when I was, like, 8 years old.
You are listening to the Platinum Talks Wealth Podcast. Hey, it's Jennifer. I wanted to take a quick break to remind you that you are worthy to have a seat at the table when it comes to money and your finances. Both me and my team at Platinum Wealth Management, want to meet you where you are, whether you're starting out, starting over, or have been investing for years. Reach out to us at platinumwealth.net or call us at 775-717-0001. We'd be honored to help. And now, back to the podcast.
And I'll never forget it because it was a life it was at that age, it really just was a big time goal of mine, and I had to budget, I had to save, and I ultimately got it, but that was by far my first big purchase that I had to, save for.
Yeah, those money memories for folks are very distinct. Once you think back, you're like, that's
Yeah,
absolutely it.
clear as day.
Yeah, yeah. So you had mentioned you're frugal, right? Do you think
Yeah.
that had something to do with like your we experience and saving and doing all the things? Like, tell me more there.
Farouk, I'll say this one, I never really liked spending money because as an individual that's relatively speaking had to work for most of my cash, I don't like giving it away as fast as um I bring it in. But also like I just think nowadays, I just think it's best to budget your money and be responsible because you never know when something crazy is gonna happen where like an emergency, I've had a few like smallish emergencies where you just had to cough up $400 out of nowhere. So that's another reason why too. I like to just plan out my money, spend accordingly and just stick to my budget.
Yeah, that emergency fund is so important.
No, it really is because that's the thing. It's an emergency. You don't know when it's going to happen. And I mean, it's only happened to me maybe a small handful of times, but $300 here, $400 here, you have to do it. So you need to have that money there.
Yeah, for sure. So one other thing we like to kind of talk through is financial infidelity. And that can mean different things to different people. Like we had said when we were talking before, that could be, I blew my budget on a pair of, Christian Louboutin shoes. It could be I wasn't being impeccable with my partner or family member about what I was doing with my finances that could have affected them or not. What would be a financial infidelity that you've either experienced or that you know someone that has experienced that hopefully, our listeners and viewers would be able to learn from?
I mean, I would actually use a friend, and it was during, I think, the pandemic. He was gambling a lot. And at first, it started out as, a fun 20 bucks here and there. And then it ultimately got to bigger bets, and he lost a handful of money. And it was a very unfortunate time for him. So I would say that was the biggest one I think I've seen in my life, just because it was a friend that I was close to, and seeing him like his feelings going losing that much money at one time, it clearly affected him. So that was the big financial infidelity for me because it affected somebody really close to me.
How did that in turn affect you? Like watching that, right? Someone close to you that's going through that's going through that. How did that in turn affect you?
Well, one, it told me to, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not a real gambler by any means, but I would tell me one, never make big bets. But two, like just, I mean, it even made me more frugal and just like be cautious. And most importantly, I think for especially for your listeners, it told me to not be emotional with my money. I don't care how you're feeling one day or another thing. I think when you make big decisions about money, whether it's investing, spending, or gambling, you need to have a you need to have a steady head. You need to be calm and make decisions responsibly as opposed to how you're feeling in that, 5, 10 minutes, because the result of that 5, 10 minutes will hurt you, at least for my friend, 2, 3 months down the road. So, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes folks many times years longer or decades longer, depending on how deep that goes.
Exactly, yeah, depending, because 'cause I'm about to say right now I'm young, but people, once you get older, your big financial mistakes can hurt it can mess up your retirement, maybe mess up your mortgage payments or something. So I think you have to be calm and you have to be responsible when you do things.
Yeah, and be your own advocate. And then if you're not working with somebody, find someone that can help support you as a financial advisor in that role if that's what you need and that makes sense for
100%.
you.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up, I always like to ask, what are tips and tricks that you use to utilize money in your household?
Oh, okay. So one, I would say just have a budget, even if it's not always like dollar to dollar. You should have a rough idea about how much you're going to spend every month. And I mean, there are expenses, and then there are your liabilities. So like groceries, haircuts, gas. You can predict these expenses if you drive to work, if you drive to your friends. You'll know how much gas you're spending. Food. Like for me, I can tell you right now, I spend like maybe $400 a month for food. Um, your rent maybe or your mortgage payment, and then like I always say, leave a handful of money for your fun time, and it should be around. At least for me, I like to spend maybe around $300 a month on just basic friends, family gatherings. So I just think having that budget, as Dave Ramsey would say, since I listen to him sometimes, have that written budget because I think it'll keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, and it just gives you that guidance, right? I feel like that's such good advice just to have a good handle. I mean, there's folks that are just kind of live by the seat of their pants, right? They're like, oh, I don't know what I have, or my, head's buried in the sand because I don't know what my budget looks like overall. But having a good, I mean, use money as a tool, right? But understand where that tool is going and how you're using it. I think it's so invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was shaking my head while you were saying that one thing because I know a lot of people, they're just kind of going by the flow, spending. And I just, even though I'm young, I just told people like, I just can't do that. You really have to understand where your money's going because they were saying, I think the other day, I think 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And respectfully, I think if people finance properly and knew where every dollar was going, I really hope or at least I think that wouldn't be the case for a lot of people. So yeah, set that budget, get that credit card on auto pay, and
Pay it
yeah,
off. Pay it off. If you're going to use it, I mean, I'm a grand proponent of if you use a credit card, pay it off every month if you can, right? Like that.
no,
You don't want that additional debt over your head and
you
paying
don't.
interest rates that are double
You
digits.
don't. No, I'm about to say somebody I know told me their interest rate on a credit card, I think at one point was like 14%. And by the time they were starting to pay off, the interest ended up being more than what they owed or something. I said, isn't that outrageous? So yeah, if you're going to use a credit card, which can be to your advantage at times, pay it off because if not, it's really just you messed yourself up.
This is I get kind of nerdy about this. You're a
Yeah.
young person and like look at the head you have on your shoulders when it comes to even talking through finances. That's awesome.
I try. I try.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I definitely appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me so much. I really appreciate it, Jennifer.
Of course, my pleasure. And hopefully you'll join us again on the next Platinum Talks Wealth podcast.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, Platinum Talks Wealth, please subscribe and share. For more information about Jennifer Rogers Markwell or Platinum Wealth Management, please visit www.platinumwealth.net. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member of FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The guest speakers and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Platinum Wealth Management.